first particle system we're going to play with is spray. It's probably the most basic of all the particle systems. We just execute the command here. We can see we can give it a name, and then we've got all the parameters for the particle system. This one doesn't have that many. So the basics behind creating one of these particle systems is we drag out the size and shape of the particle system we're chasing, like so. This little straight line coming out at perpendicular angle to the system tells us the directions of the particles. So I just move that up to the top of the screen. We can see that the particles are going to travel straight down. Then we've got here, under the first parameter control, is viewport counter. What this means is how many particles are we going to see in the viewport. At what we've got currently set to means we'll never see more than 100 particles. Under render, it's got set to never be more than 100 particles. What you may want to do is have this set to 100 but this set to 1000. The reason for that is while you're modeling, it might not be necessary to see all the particles. It may be too much for your computer to display. But when it comes to the final render, you may need those extra particles. And it's a very common situation where you have a lot more particles to render than what's displayed. So I'm just going to set that to 1000 under render. The next one down is the drop size. This is how big it's going to physically render. So I can set it anywhere between 1 and whatever size I'm chasing. So I'm just going to leave that at 2 for now. The next thing we've got is the speed, how fast the droplets or the particles are traveling. And then we've got the variation, are they traveling at different speeds and so on, different sizes. Then we've got what type of particle they're going to be. Drops, dots and ticks. I'm just going to leave it at drops. Then we've got how it's going to render, what it's going to substitute them for, faces and so on. And then we've got how it's going to render over time, or what it's going to do over time. And at the moment it's just set to constant, which means if I pull and drag, there you can see that it starts from 0 and it's just constant, and each droplet or each particle will only live for 30 frames. If I set that down to something shorter, you'll be able to see that they disappear a lot earlier because they can only live for 10 frames now. If I set it back to 30 frames, you can see that they travel a lot further down the screen because now they live a lot longer. And then the last area we've got here is the width and length of the emitter. That's just the physical size of the emitter on the screen. Under timing, if we turn off constant, here you can see that I now drag that and nothing happens. That's because I haven't set a birth rate. If I set it to 1, only one emitter sort of per frame can be born and only live for 30 frames. So I'm getting a very small particle system there. If I drag that up to 10, now you can see that 10 particles are born every frame, and every 30 frames they disappear. So you can bend and twist a particle system to your own needs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly apply material that I pre-made, this red glowing material. That's been applied to my particle system. If I now render the particle system, we'll see what it looks like. So if I just hit render here, here we can see just a patch of red dots falling down the screen. You could very easily use this in a landscape shot to simulate rain or snow. So it's a very simple command to use